alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the unfortunate escalation of terrorism that we've seen in Pakistan, the ramifications of it overall, and also as far as the terrorism, the interference that we've seen, of course, coming from across the border with a hostile neighbor, and the ramifications of it overall on our geostrategic, geopolitical situation with other countries, and its effects overall. Of course, our efforts at this time to deal with this escalation in terrorism are at an all-time high. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Lieutenant General Raza M. Khan, who is a security analyst, and will be joined by other guests. But Raza Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
General Saab, there is, we have seen an unfortunate surge in terrorism recently, for which there are a host of factors. To what do you attribute this increase of late as far as, Pakistan, our borders are concerned? What is your overall estimation of this?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think first of all, we need to refer back to the Guardian story, which has claimed that 20 Pakistani citizens have been killed by India from the period starting 2020 till to date. And of course, there has been a response to that from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of India, who initially rejected this report, and as usual, they are in a denial mode. But later on, the Indian Minister of Defense actually accepted what the Guardian report had said. And similarly, Modi, in one of his election campaigns in Bihar, he had actually reinforced that this is now the Indian state policy. And preferably, I think possibly this is because, as our own Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Foreign Affairs said, that this is essentially a rhetoric, to support the winning of the BJP in the elections which are due on the 19th of April. Nothing more than that. But I think they've very clearly stated that it is now their state policy, to murder people internationally, including in Pakistan. While, they may not have killed 20 people, because if you recall, in January this year, our own Ministry of Foreign Affairs very clearly said that we have definite evidence about the murder of two Pakistanis by Indian intelligence agencies. One was named Mohammad Riaz, who was murdered in Rawla Court on 8th September, and the second one was Shahid Latif, who was murdered on 11 October. And that evidence, it said that probably it is going to share with the international community, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs expected that the international community should collectively make India responsible and culpable for such heinous deeds, because they had repeated these in other countries as well. To whatever has been reported by Guardian, I think the response of our Ministry of Defense and Foreign Affairs is very balanced, and it very clearly said that India is aware that it cannot hurt or it cannot afford an aggression against Pakistan conventionally, because it is going to fail, as it saw it, in 2019, and its Balakot attack failed. So, having said that, I think all the evidence that has been gathered by Pakistan and also by the Guardian and international community, I think needs to be made public and shared with our own media as well, and elsewhere. All the raw sleeping cells in Pakistan, in UAE, and in other countries, from where terrorism is emanating inside Pakistan, from where funding is coming to Pakistan for the logistic support and for affecting the minds of the youth, and also for the recruitment of some poor, needy Pakistanis in the Middle East. I think all that needs to be taken very, very seriously. We need to, keep all these sleeper cells, whether it is in Pakistan or abroad, under very close watch. Inside Pakistan, through improved provincial counter-terrorism departments, because most of these terrorism activities are occurring.
General Saab, we
Now,
talk about, you have just mentioned that we need, perhaps a collaborative a kind of input even within Pakistan, between the provinces also, better coordination, so to speak, and also between as far as internationally also. Do you think that, with the kind of interference that we've recently seen other countries talk about, as far as India is concerned, do you think it's possible for that kind of an international, a collaborative effort against this kind of interference, because it's happening to other countries now also?
absolutely, I think the very close friends of Pakistan, like China, UAE, other Islamic countries, I think there can be intelligence sharing on this aspect with them, and it will serve the interest of those countries as well as Pakistan's interest, because we are aware that the Indians are undertaking terrorist activities against the CPEC, and Pakistan and China have resolved that they are going to meet this menace together, collectively, whether these attacks were in Besham or in other parts of Balochistan, whether they were in Gawadar or at Turbat. So that is, I think, very important. And I think China can also exert influence on some of these raw, training cells located in Afghanistan through the Afghan government, because China is undertaking major development activities in Afghanistan as well. Similarly, I think we have very cordial relations with the government of UAE, with the government of Qatar, where, if you recall again, 6 or 7 former Indian naval officers they were captured and they were jailed for espionage activities there. So we need to have cooperation with all those countries as well. At the same time, the provincial action plans, I think they need to be improved. These police departments need to be funded. They need to be trained, particularly their intelligence capabilities. They must be improved. As I said, most of these murders, they have occurred in the urban areas. And I think that is the responsibility then of the civil law enforcement agencies to look after that, because the armed forces or the federal level intelligence agencies cannot be looking everywhere. There should be a clear dividing line, and I think there is a dividing line when the federal intelligence agencies are looking after the border areas and even beyond. And I think the other areas left to be needs to be left to the domain of the Ministry of Interior.
General Saab,
While
there's also, the kind of belligerence that we've seen as far as India is concerned. The kind of attitude, of course, we've also seen the remarks of their defense minister. Overall, do you think that, that they're gradually exceeding, or they're gradually the kind of politics that is now at play within India, categorized by the Modi model, is having its own spillover effect all over the world? And if it's not clamped down, if it's not stopped at this juncture, it will have its own consequences.
absolutely, I think that is true, and I think the international media now has covered these recent incidents uh, by clearly linking uh, these murders internationally, including Pakistan, with the Indian elections. And I think the big powers would also understand that this is what is happening. And I don't know what actions the Canadian or the American, the US governments or others are going to take. So far,
Right.
their stance
But it has
on
to
such
be
attacks.
done sooner rather than later. I will come back to you, General Sir. Please stay with me. I have with me Saeed Mohammed Ali, who's a security analyst. Thank you so much for joining us. Ji, can you hear me, Saeed Mohammed?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for
Ji,
having me.
overall, we're talking about the effects of the kind of politics that is, at play within India. Of course, the Modi style of politics, which is of course characterized by extremism, which is characterized by this interference into other countries and their borders. We've also seen statements come from other countries, like for example Canada. We've also seen the US Department of Justice talk about this. Overall, in your opinion, it is now, where does the buck stop as far as India is concerned? How do we need a collaborative action, which is what General Saab was saying? Do we need a joint action now? Because it needs to be clamped, this kind of interference that is continuously advanced towards other countries and into their borders.
Thank you for having me. I think it's a very serious international.
Ji. I'm going to, I think there's a problem with audio, General Sab. There is, the kind of reaction. Let's talk about the kind of remarks that have come from the US Department of Justice. Do you think the relationship of the US with regard to India perhaps needs to be revisited in the light of, the recent events as far as India is concerned? Or do you think that US will continue to support India?
I think when it comes to a policy of state-sponsored terrorism in other countries, the United States will just neither support India nor oppose India, because to them they are using India, to contain China, and that is the reason. But we need to actually now polish our own response. Of course, we have a range of options, and I'm sure they would all be on the table and under discussion by the government of Pakistan. Then they include, political, diplomatic, regional, also military options, response, through the media or the domain of cyber informations, kinetic, non-kinetic sort of means and measures. But one has to be, very careful about the timings of our response if it has to be escalated, because, as I said, India has started these tactics to win the election, and we do not want to overreact to such kind of rhetoric, because that is going to reinforce what the Indians want. And we might actually also adopt a policy of strategic restraint for this reason, and also for the reason that we are a responsible nuclear state, and we want peace in the region, and particularly in the subcontinent. We want, our economy to stabilize. We want to focus on political
But
stability.
General Saab, on the one hand, of course, we want our economy to stabilize. We want there to be, a robust economic activity within the region. But if this interference continues, of course, it becomes difficult to have things continue and to have stability, which is our overriding concern. With regard to that, I'll come back to you. I think we have Syed Mohammed Ali with us again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Am I
I'll
audible?
let you continue from where we were interrupted.
Yes, I said that I think it's a very important international security issue. And I think there are three aspects which deserve adequate and timely international attention and intervention. First off, I think there is a political aspect, obviously, because of the upcoming Indian elections. This has been the culture and the tradition of BJP in the last 26 years that whenever they are facing elections, they tend to rely more on hostile rhetoric against Pakistan in particular and Muslims in general in order to woo and attract the extremist elements within their own society and to get their votes. It's very unfortunate, and I sympathize with the peaceful and law-abiding Indians for being exploited with such a extremist and dangerous mindset, which is harmful for their own interest, number one. The second aspect is the diplomatic aspect, which is very important because what Pakistan has said, what Pakistan's Foreign Office demonstrated in January early this year in terms of sharing of proofs that India is involved in target killing and political assassination through its intelligence agency inside Pakistan has been vindicated by the recent statement by the Indian Defense Minister that they actually have a policy of using intelligence services for target killing and political assassination of their opponents and critics in other countries. But I see a huge diplomatic opportunity now that this policy is no longer restricted to Pakistan or the region, but has gone global, which proves that India has overestimated its power and underestimated the international system and its goodwill. So what has happened in Canada, in the US, in the UK, in the Middle East is exactly now these countries share the same security concerns towards India, which Pakistan has been sharing with the world for so many years. So it's a diplomatic success for Pakistan. But the third aspect is the most important, ma'am, which is the strategic aspect. General Saab would bear me out, but I think in the last 37 years, since brass tacks, all the military doctrines of Indian military, whether it was brass tacks, whether it was cold start, whether it was surgical strike, and the recent non-contact warfare, all these doctrines were primarily aimed at imposing an embarrassing defeat on Pakistan and declaring hegemony in this region because Pakistan is the only regional counterweight to Indian hegemony. So, but unfortunately, it has, their designs were foiled, and Pakistan demonstrated both in terms of political will, defense capability, and defense technology in all the four realms, whether it is air domain, whether it is sea, whether it is land, whether it is the nuclear deterrence, that Indian leadership is now convinced that it has no space left for any successful military operation in conventional or strategic realms or domains against Pakistan. So their only option left is to resort to state-sponsored terrorism by cultivating and engaging terrorists in other countries through their intelligence operatives and funding them and supporting them to eliminate their political opponents. So this is the ultimate proof.
Saeed Muhammad Ali, let me come back to you. I'm going to go to General Saab again, General Raza. General Saab, there is, again, of course, there's, as far as the world overall is concerned, of course, there is an acknowledgement of the fact that this is a potentially volatile region. It is also, a nation, a region where nations are, nuclear armed. Do you think with regard to this, perhaps we can expect perhaps, a friendly interference from nations that can make a difference to the kind of, activities that have been happening lately from across the border?
Yes, I think they need to do that. As I said earlier, peace and stability in Asia and in the subcontinent is in everybody's interest. And therefore, in the past also, they have prevailed in such situations, and in future they would also prevail. But I think the Indian government knows, their armed forces also know that Pakistan has a range of capabilities, and whatever India has been trying in the past, I think their designs, their plans, they've been defeated. And when we are talking of these capabilities, I think if the Indians are, now doing some kind of a preemption through terrorists, I think Pakistan has options, to defeat this prevention by counter preemption.
Okay.
It has the ability, I think, to do it openly, conventionally, subconventionally, or in a clandestine manner, a combination of these approaches through warnings to India, through diplomatic channels, demarches to them, and eventually ultimatum. So all these options are available. They are on the table. The government of Pakistan is in a better position which out of these range of options they can pick up at the moment to prevent these attacks from Indian side, these murderous attacks. Also extremely important is the sleeper cells of India inside Pakistan as well as other countries. I think they are legitimate targets now for the security forces wherever they may be. Uh, so I think I'm sure the
Right.
Indians are also aware of that. So
Yes.
I think
Thank you so
the
much.
government of Pakistan, at an appropriate moment, will take the decision how to respond and in what time frame.
Right. Thank you so much, General Saab. Thank you for your very valuable time on this very important issue. Ji, Syed Muhammad Ali, you heard what General Saab was saying. He's saying that, it has to be, perhaps diplomatically also, we have to, try all options as far as agitating for our cause, as far as this interference is concerned. Do you think that,
Absolutely.
Ji, please.
Sure, please go on.
Ji,
Yes,
Ji,
you were
I can hear
speaking,
you.
and I'm with you.
I can hear you. Ji, please continue.
Yes, I just wanted to build further on what Jan Saab has said, that I think Pakistan needs to work simultaneously, consistently, and effectively on four fronts. One is obviously the primary importance is to have a strong defense and intelligence system which prevents our adversaries from exploiting any gaps or loopholes in that. Number one. Secondly, obviously, we need to identify those individuals and elements who have been engaged with our adversaries and have been contacted by them or have been used for such operations inside Pakistan. That is putting our own house in order is very important. But the secondly, we need to maintain strong defense and deterrence because that is the reason why, despite spending the fourth biggest budget of its taxpayers' money on defense spending and latest arms acquisition, India and its leadership have realized and recognized that imposing a conventional or strategic war against Pakistan is not a viable option anymore. So that is a critical need for ensuring peace and stability in this region. Now, coming to exposing India optimally around the world is an opportunity which is emerging thanks to the overestimation of power by India and its huge blunders around the world. I think that's a huge opportunity for our diplomatic community. And with all these evidences, I think the dossier needs to be regularly updated and perhaps every 6 months or annually, the fact sheet should be issued by our Foreign Office that how India, with all the facts, figures and evidences, that how India is regularly sponsoring and supporting different terrorist movements, not just inside Pakistan, but in the regional and global level, at the United Nations in New York, at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, at the international leading think tanks. And this state-led effort needs to be reinforced and supported by our scholars, our opinion makers, and our academics through their discourses around the world in think tanks, in conferences, in seminars, in dialogues, and also
What about, I
getting
asked this from
research
General Saab
published
also,
which exposes
Syed
India in the
Muhammad
world.
Ali, but the overall relationship with the US, of course, is, a country that the world looks to as far as how they take it, what the stance is overall. Do you think it's going to change with regard to India?
Yeah, I think the U.S. government and their decision makers and strategic thinkers are beginning to see India in a different light now. I think now I expect the US-India bilateral relationship to also enter a new phase, a new era, which is based on Washington recovering from the initial optimistic expectations of unlimited and enduring security commitment against containment of China project, and they will enter a new era in which they increasingly recognize and understand the limits of Indian commitment against China, and also they will not be able to neglect the serious evidences that the U.S. Department of Justice has itself formally made public, that Indian officials have been found involved in assassination attempts against U.S. Citizens inside U.S. territory. So these are the facts which are, I think, increasingly being noticed. And you must have noticed that the U.S. Official public stance against India has also led to greater pressure on them. Because obviously India is not cooperating in intelligence, sharing and providing evidence of the investigation. It is not forthcoming, and the biggest evidence of that is the postponement of the U.S. President Biden's India visit in January, and followed by several statements, including by the top U.S. State Department official for South Asia, Mr. Donald Lu, when he spoke at the U.S. Congress. Although the primary focus was Pakistan, but he made sure that he also highlights before the U.S. legislature and the Congress the danger that the Indians pose to the U.S. security concerns and
that you very aptly said is that India. You said that India is being looked at by the US in perhaps a different light now. Do you think there's also acknowledging the effect of having a country like India, unpoliced in this manner? And allowed to run wild in the sense that of course it is going to have a spillover effect all over the world then. Do you think, but the question is, as far as their relationship with India is concerned, those diplomatic relations, are they going to be affected at all, in your opinion, by this or no?
Oh, definitely. Not just diplomatically, but I think, as I earlier pointed out, that in my assessment, the bilateral Indo-US relationship will undergo a comprehensive, pragmatic and realistic reality check in all domains. And the nature and the extent of support that New Delhi has so far enjoyed, thanks to U.S. Diplomatic support for its permanent membership in the United Nations Security Council, its membership in the Nuclear Suppliers Group, its support and neglect of its terrible human rights record inside India, but also in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and also, its support for terrorist organizations. These facts are increasingly being noticed and realistically assessed. And I think this will translate into a reduced defense, security and intelligence cooperation in several domains, because India is also not very forthcoming in terms of tangible steps in containing China. And the US is also increasingly recognizing that this is just a bogey to get diplomatic, economic support and military assistance and access to latest technology. But in reality, India is not sincere to long-term US concerns and interests in this region. So this reality check is already afoot, and the biggest evidence that I earlier pointed out was the postponement of the visit of US President, and also the testimony by Donald Lu in US Congress, in which he condemned and criticized and issued serious concerns regarding Indian support for terrorism. And also frequent statements and comments by the U.S. State Department spokesperson demanding from India to share its progress in the allegations regarding its intelligence support for terrorist organizations around the world, which proves that covertly and through back channels, India has not reciprocated American expectations. So all these facts prove that already quietly and gradually Washington is recognizing that not only India is not committed to the U.S. interests in this region, but also it is taking the U.S. goodwill and support and assistance for granted, and it is abusing that trust by sending its intelligence officials in the U.S. territory to assassinate American citizens.
Sayyid Mohammed
That is
Ali, as
something
far
that
as
American
this
will
is,
never
you know,
put up
this,
with.
do you think this is also this escalation as far as terrorism is concerned? Do you think it's also related to what's happening internally as far as India is concerned, the elections, their own domestic situation? Because we've known Modi to do this, you know, earlier on also.
I think the domestic politics is definitely a important factor, but not the only factor. As I earlier pointed out, in the last 26 years, since 1998 elections, unfortunately, BJP has always relied on anti-Muslim rhetoric and sentiment and anti-Pakistan allegations to woo and attract the votes from the extremist elements. And I see it's also this statement by the Indian Defence Minister also in that context. However, I also want to, through you, urge the peace-loving, liberal, leftist, pro-democracy people in India that they need to take cognizance of this situation, because this approach is not in their own interest, and they have the opportunity in the upcoming elections to reject such dangerous, destabilizing and criminal mindset, to elect those representatives which are more stable, which are peace-loving, which have the maturity and responsibility to resolve regional issues peacefully and timely, and are not going to take their country down the drain with such irresponsible rhetoric. That is the political aspect. But the second aspect is that I think the current strategic leadership and elite of India, whether it's Mr. Ajit Doval, who's an NSA, or Mr. The defense minister, or Mr. Modi, these people, I think, are overestimating Indian power and might, and underestimating the security concerns which are increasingly rising in the world and the Western powers in particular. So I think soon they will realize that they can't take the Western and the world goodwill for granted, and these irresponsible and dangerous and destabilizing policy actions will definitely
kind of foray into other countries and their own borders. Their own sovereignty cannot remain unchecked. I think that's extremely important. Thank you so much for being with us, Sayyid Mohammed Ali. Thank you for your very valuable input. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us, Lieutenant General Raza M. Khan. Thank you for joining us, Sayyid Mohammed Ali. Thank you for being with us today. Of course, as far as Pakistan is concerned, we are more than capable of securing our own borders. We are more than capable of ensuring that our country remains secure and safe. But the question is, can a country like India, with its foray into other countries and their sovereignty, continue to remain unchecked, and that the world must react to this kind of interference, which India has repeatedly shown, not only in Pakistan, but other countries also. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.